Hey guys, so again, my name is Ian. Thanks for coming out. I think my goal for today is really to be as instructional and helpful to you guys as possible. Overall structure, I'm going to go through kind of the genesis and history of Discotech, talk about our journey. It's just one way of doing it. Our path is just one way of doing it. I'll say that I don't think our journey is too different than what a lot of other startups go through. So we'll follow that kind of trajectory, but I encourage you guys to treat this as kind of like a Reddit AMA, so like ask me anything. So feel free to jump in with questions, especially if it's relevant to the slide that we're on. I want this to be like a pretty cool, fun discussion. Again, just want to be helpful to you guys. And also at the end, I will be, we are looking for some interns, so if you're interested, feel free to take down my contact info, reach out to me. We're always looking to get some help throughout the year. So. Cool, so I'll start a little bit with my background as well as the background of my two co-founders. All three of us were actually in the same freshman dormitory at UC Berkeley, so when you think about what's really important from the school, the degree was nice, but that network really was crucial to helping me, I guess, realize a goal of mine. I graduated from Berkeley with a degree in industrial engineering and in business, and then I started my career at Bain & Company out of their San Francisco office doing, management consulting, so did that for a couple of years. And then I transitioned to a private equity analyst role here in Los Angeles at a medium-sized private equity firm called the Gores Group. So while I was there, I was doing traditional leveraged buyouts, so looking at companies, mergers and acquisitions. And then half my time there was spent as an operational role, working with our existing portfolio companies and working with them to try to take out costs and make them more profitable. My co-founder, my CTO and co-founder, Ian Bouchon, is an electrical engineer, computer scientist, really brilliant guy, and super critical to the team because ultimately as our CTO, and because we're a technology company, he owns the product, right? So the infrastructure, all the magic that happens behind the scenes, he's in charge of that. And then Mark, my co-founder and COO, Mark was really the guy who had the original idea. We were out partying. I'll go into that story a little bit later. But as our COO, Mark is extremely detail-oriented. He's if I'm taking care of things high level and I'm all optimistic, he's the glue that makes the machine work and keeps us grounded. And so the three of us were really a tripod, doing different things with different strengths and complementing each other. And I'm pretty sure if you removed any piece of the tripod, it wouldn't look good. I'll kind of start about the idea for Discotech and how that came about. So, truth be told, while I was working in private equity, it's just really brutal hours, 80 plus hours a week on average. Solid disposable income, so I would go and rage and get all that stressed out by going to nightclubs. So me and Mark, good friends, we would party together a lot. And I guess just through that experience, I realized, I could see how inefficient the market was. As a customer, I'm trying to spend money. I'm trying to go out and spend money. And yet, to do that, I need to first find some random promoter. I need to call or text them, wait for them to get back to me. Usually there's some negotiation process along with it. And there was just way too much friction for a customer to spend money, right? And that shouldn't exist. To add to that story, Mark and I went to Vegas once, and we just had a really bad experience at a nightclub where we were told we were going to have a table at a certain deal, showed up, didn't get it, and it was just a really awful night. And the day after, Mark came up to me and was like, "Hey, there's got to be an app to solve this problem or something online." And we took a look and couldn't find anything. And so kind of a light bulb went off that's oh my God, this could be an opportunity. Part of figuring out whether there was an opportunity or not was evaluating the market. What does the market look like? Is it big? Is there money to be made? And I guess at the time, we took a look at it. Global market, we really should have just been talking about the US market because that's kind of where we are. But a lot of promoters out there, they have jobs, a lot of them drive nice cars. That means there's room to disrupt them and make some money by getting rid of those jobs. And we saw a lot of parallels of different technology companies doing this. Right, we saw Priceline, Kayak, Booking.com really kind of disintermediating travel agents, people who help you book hotels, etc. and similar open table to restaurant concierges. So we said, okay, like maybe there's something we can do similar. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here and disintermediate traditional human promoters. Since we've launched, we're working with over 400 different venues now. That includes nightclubs, lounges, bars. We also work with large music festivals like EDC, Ultra, Life is Beautiful. We're in over 35 cities now, and we're working with like the biggest names in the game. So like XS, Marquee, Hakkasan, like names that you guys have probably heard of before. So one of the big questions here, how do we make money, right? So Discotech, one of our selling points to the venue is that it's risk-free. So we actually don't charge like a sign-up fee or subscription cost to them, although that's something we're considering. A nightlife venue can promote their events on our platform essentially for free. And then similar to traditional human promoters, we make our revenue on commission. So by making sales, by driving traffic, as we like to say, we only eat what we kill. So starting on the low end, like a guest list. So like when you guys sign up for a guest list and you get into a club for free or for a discount, we still get a bounty per head for someone checking in because like you're still a body of the venue. You're filling up the party. You're probably spending money on drinks, and so they're paying us for that. Ticketing, we take a percentage commission, and then table bookings as well. Similar to traditional promoters, we get a cut of whatever is spent, and they're paying us for driving that traffic.
Do you ever run into issues with the club not honoring the reservation that someone made through Discotech?
It's definitely happened before, and it happened a lot more in the beginning when we were starting off, which like is discouraging. Yeah. But definitely, we've had miscommunications where we've been told the reservation was good and then it wasn't. But just through, I'd say, some trial and error and building our credibility and kind of our weight in the ecosystem, our reservations are much more are incredibly reliable now because the clubs all know who we are, and if we have a reservation, they respect that. But in the beginning, people would be like, oh, I have a reservation with Discotech. People would be like, what's that? So it definitely starts hard and gets easier after you get past a certain point, but I would say that, at least for us, and again, every life cycle is different. Like late year 2, early year 3 were like really hard for us because even when you start off at the beginning, you have nothing, right? But you're extremely optimistic and you just have all this like fire. Like you're working like 18 hours a day. You don't want to go out. You don't want to do anything. You just want to work. And it's like super exciting. So that motivation, that intrinsic drive, like really propels you through a lot of hard times. But I think like eventually you get to a slump where you've run out of some of that momentum. You're tired, you're hurt, but then like getting through that that trough at the bottom is kind of where then you start to saw things pick up. Yeah.
Do you think like the years spent in private equity that you had before starting the Discotech, do you think that helped a lot in the app being successful, or do you think you could have done the same like job straight out of college?
Yeah, I think it was helpful, and when I look at it directly, it may not be super like readily apparent, but then taking a step back, I'll say that these were some of the reasons it was helpful. One, it let me save money. So I had money in my bank account. That was very important because while we were doing this company, we raised one seed round initially. Our first round was about $450,000. It wasn't a lot, but that money, like, we almost ran out of that at a point, and we were basically like living on our savings. If I didn't have that like financial savings, it would have added a lot of pressure and stress on my life, and who knows if we could have handled that. Two is, and this is just specifically to working long, brutal hours, it made me tough. Like, I had to go from being like someone who can run like an 8-minute mile to someone being able to run like a 5-minute mile from like graduating Berkeley to working in private equity. Like, I thought I knew, like, I was a pretty decent student, and I thought I was like disciplined and I could work hard. Like, my first job at Bain as a consultant was like a very rude awakening. I was like, oh my God, like working like 60 to 65 hours a week is really hard. And like my first year out of college, maybe one of the worst years of my life. And then to moving into private equity, it got even harder, but it made me tough. So it made me tougher mentally, spiritually, like emotionally as a person, which is 100% what the struggle of being like a lonely entrepreneur is. So that had a huge impact. And then third, I did just learn a lot about running like businesses in private equity and in consulting specifically. Like I would say I'm very lucky because I got to look at how businesses are run. I get to learn about best practices. One of the things that Discotech has done really well that I think we're a lot better than our other like peers and cohorts in is we're lean. Like we're really frugal with money. And part of that was like just from my like previous work experience. So very helpful. And I would, again, speaking with some bias, I think it's a good idea to get a couple of years of work experience before you go off and do something yourself. I think you'll learn a lot, you'll meet people, you might be able to save some money, which is good, but most importantly is you'll have a fallback. And there were times where I wasn't sure Discotech was going to work, and I was like, oh, thank God I can like go back into the workforce and I have something on my resume. Like, if you kind of just jump in and do the startup life right after, I'm not saying you can't go back to the workforce, you certainly can, and doing a startup will teach you a lot, but people, I think when people are looking to hire people, that resume is that first step. Yeah.
So you briefly mentioned the global market, and the chart you showed like 25 billion
Yeah.
globally, but only 1% in the US.
Oh no, the 1% was the share of like technology competitors.
Okay.
So like this space is still dominated by like just Joe Schmo promoters. People like Discotech, like even though we may be the market leader, we're just like a small blip in the market share. That's good news because it means we have a lot of room to grow,
Gotcha.
a lot of upside.
Well, regardless of that, is the end goal to expand to the global market? Just because I know from experience, across Europe and et cetera, that's a problem there as well.
Yeah, that's definitely the vision is to be like a global product so that it's a one-stop shop for wherever you jet set to. But we're already in Mexico, Canada,
Oh, wow.
Japan, and I think Spain. Maybe in UK as well. So we're slowly working our way up there. But I guess just going back here, so I talked a little bit about the idea generation. So for me and Mark, it was an idea that came to us from the customer's perspective. We had a pain point as customers, and we went out to kind of like address that. This part I think is a very important step that if we had actually done this right, we probably never would have done Discotech. Not to say that, love Discotech, love the company, love the team, it's been a phenomenal ride, but using kind of what I know now, I wouldn't have been that delighted in a company like this as who I am today. I'll explain why. So we talk about market sizing and like unit economics. This is probably the main one, unit economics. Market size is simple. You want to be in a big market where there's a lot of money to be made. Nightlife, it's not a terrible market. It's not huge. It's not like fintech. It's not healthcare. There are tons of bigger markets out there. One example is like we picked a niche and we're battling it out, and it's great. We're doing a good job. But restaurants, hotels, huge markets, right? Tough industries, right? We're not competing in those industries because they're already huge, like gorillas dominating that space. This part is kind of where if I could go back in time and talk to young Ian, I'd pick something with better margins. So unit economics, if I sell something for $1, what is my gross margin? What percentage do I get to keep as my profit, right? So you saw our revenue model earlier, right? We're making 10, 15% commission. That's actually not good, right? You should try to find a business where you sell something for $1, you keep 40 cents. 40%, 50% margins, like cosmetics, huge margins in that space. Besides the fact that it just lets much more of your revenue hit your bottom line, which is the most important thing in the world, it allows you to do a lot more in terms of marketing and user acquisition. It makes your ROI a lot easier when you just get this good unit economics. Yep.
So what are your biggest costs? Because I can imagine cost of goods sold is a major piece when it's just an app.
Yeah, we essentially, so one way of looking at it is we don't have a COGS.
Okay.
We're sending an email and it's getting approved, and it's essentially a reservation, or we're sending it something and it gets approved. But let's say we have a customer, he spends $1,500, right? We keep, if it's 10%, we keep $150,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
The customer is still spending a lot of money on our platform, and we're not keeping it. Now, in the future, down the road, maybe it is possible for us to increase those margins if we get more negotiating power, but it's certainly not easy to make our customers, the clubs, pay us more. They certainly don't want to. Whereas there are just a lot of other industries out there, like maybe pizza. Like it probably costs like $1 to make that pizza, but you paid like $10 for it.
Yeah.
That's a great margin.
Yeah.
Pizza businesses do well. You know? It's easy to make a pizza, but it's easier to survive if you have good margins.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So in terms of your costs, is it primarily more fixed costs or variable costs?
Our costs are almost entirely fixed, like salary, like
Yeah.
paying software developers, big cost.
Yeah.
Because all of our technology is built in-house. Like we have great software developers. We believe that having like a few like elite people who can just like do everything, like who can own their projects,
Yeah.
is better than having like 2 or 3 people who are cheap or outsourced or from whatnot. And we've actually tried that. So in the very beginning, we worked with very cheap like software development like labor from we tried India, we tried like Eastern Europe, and it really just did not pan out. We were literally just burning money. And so we want to make sure that we vet the software developers we hire. We have great software developers. Their impact to the business is huge. Like Discotech is an app.
Yeah.
The app's not good, then you're screwed. Like your product sucks.
Yeah.
So salary is a big one. We have some marketing. It's really mostly just salary, people's salaries.
So any revenue growth that you make within Discotech would essentially be good growth because it would directly increase your bottom line.
Right, and right now we're just, at the stage we're in now, we're just very much focused on how do we get more customers, how do we get greater sales.
Okay.
Luckily now, most of our fixed costs are kind of set. We don't need to hire that much more, hopefully, we'll see. So yeah, but let's say you look at your idea, the market's good, the market size is solid, unit economic makes sense. One thing I'm missing here is probably like competition, right? Like, are there already a lot of people doing this? Are any of those people very successful already? If so, like that's not good, obviously, but validate your idea, good unit economics, not a huge person dominating the space, it's a good thing. You might have a shot. Next step is like creating your team. So clearly I started Discotech with co-founders. It says so right here. This is it. Like a startup is really just the culmination of people working together and the product and the goods or service that is developed from that team. The people you hire from the founders is also a function of the team, like what you were able to build, what you're like, the culture that you create. Like all these things stem from who you are, like your identity, your company DNA. And so if you make a mistake here, that could be it.
How did you trust, like, say you had a demo, right, and the idea, and you pitched it to the club guys? How did you know that they're not just gonna do it themselves? Since it was just like a...
And that's a great question. I think you have to believe that there's always gonna be competition. Ideas really are worthless. Like they're super useless. We have had so many, I have like 30 to 40 other apps on my phone of our competitors. Every time we find a competitor, I'm going to download it and like check them out. They're basically all dead. They don't exist anymore. They don't work. Like they ran out of money. They didn't get critical mass. Like something went wrong along the way. Could have been us. Luckily it wasn't. But you just got to believe that you're going to outperform them. And look, like these guys are. Look, a lot of respect to these club people and what they do, but they're not software developers either. Like we had, we had our tech talent. I think that's what differentiated us at the beginning. So early business development, this is like getting your first customers. Like these are the hardest customers to get. Like we tried a lot of like really silly things in the beginning to get customers that like didn't really work. Like we'd go to clubs and hand out cards and like just like try to talk to people in line. We like actually hired attractive women off Craigslist to do this, and it was like they were even worse than me. But like when you get your first customers and you see that first revenue, it's a pretty amazing feeling. You're like, oh my god, like we did it, like this could work. And it's really like taking that and scaling it, 1,000x, like 10,000x to growing a business. But really, once you have some traction, right, you have some users, you have some feedback, some reviews, you have other metrics like your revenue, your monthly active users, number of downloads, you're tracking all this stuff. That's kind of where you take it, and then you go and like, at least for us, we then went and raised our first angel round. So before this, we just funded this off our savings. So we were just, we all had saved up some money. We weren't paying ourselves anything, obviously, it's just our own money anyways. And we were just hustling. And then at this point, we took kind of our, I made a deck, some charts, this is our traction, here's the market, this is where we're gonna, like some really rosy projections that obviously we missed by like 100x. And then went off, raised some money from friends and family. Some of our early customers, like some of our earliest customers were our first investors. Like they used the product, like this is such a cool idea, like how do I get involved? So that was really cool. That was great validation when our customers wanted to be our investors. So that was really cool. So again, more product validation here. And then kind of this part I'll talk a little bit more about. And this is kind of goes into like kind of years 2 and 3 of Discotech, where it's like you're growing, you're seeing progress, but like you're still burning money. So on a monthly level, you're still not profitable, and you're like running out of money here. Like terrible things happen. Like tragedies happen. It will happen in every startup, I'm sure, unless you're just incredibly lucky. I have not really met another entrepreneur who hasn't had to like deal with a lot of shit. On our end, we had some of our co-founders exit. One second. We had our co-founders exit. We were trying to do another round when we were running out of money, and we were trying to raise $1 million for our second round. And we had like the lead investor. We had all these other investors like lined up behind our lead, only to have like our lead pull out like essentially at the altar, like the day they were supposed to like wire us. They're like, sorry, like we had to change of heart. And then when our lead bounced, we had to tell our other investors, because obviously they were waiting for our lead to come in first. And as soon as they found out that the lead wasn't in, they're like, oh, we're out. So like we almost ran out of money. Like the three of us actually had the conversation, like, are we in or are we out? And the vote went 2-1 to stick it out like 3-4 more months. And we're just blessed that the person who voted no wasn't like, fuck it, I'm out anyways. Like he stuck around for us, and that goes back to team formation and picking the right people.